Okay, how many millionaire authors do we have in the audience right now? Awesome. You guys are totally in the right place.
Sorry.
They have given me permission to start a little early, and that's probably a good thing because, I'm probably going to roll over. But I'm glad to see everybody here. I was really excited to see how many. I thought for sure I was going to have like 3 people in the room, and I was going to be one of them. So thank you so much for being here among me and the 2 video camera operators. So the topic here, there's a backstory to me being here. Let me catch my breath. Let's all do that together, all right? Big deep breath. I did not tell you to let it out. Hold till the end, please. There is a backstory to this particular topic at this particular show. I was initially just going to come as a guest. Those of you, let me do an introduction first. So I'm Kevin Tumlinson. Some of you may know me as the Director of Marketing and PR for Draft to Digital. How many know me that way? Okay, that's a confusing name. Some of you may know me as the Wordslinger from the Wordslinger Podcast. How many know me from that? About even. All right, how many of you know me as an author? Okay, all right, I'm rolling pretty good here. All right, normally no one answers on the last one, so thank you so much for knowing that I write books. Thank you. And by the way, congratulations to all of you for writing books. You guys are amazing. Give yourself a round of applause. Seriously. It's the hardest job in the world. We do it with or without pay, so that is an amazing feat. So the backstory is I have the Wordslinger Podcast, which, by the way, is in its 6th season. Quite an accomplishment. And over the past 6 years, if you haven't ever heard of the show or haven't listened, I tend to interview mostly authors, but I'll interview practically anyone who has a good story that I think can supply some information to help, first me, I'm pretty selfish that way, but then the author community. I'll go ahead and share it with you guys too, right? And over those years, I've also done what I call my solo slinger episodes. These are just me talking to a microphone and sometimes a camera for about 30 minutes about just something that's on my mind. I did one of these a couple of months ago that I called Bootstrapping Your Author Career. This isn't the first time that I've talked about it, but I think it may have been the first time that I actually put a whole bunch of concepts together for an actual full episode of Wordslinger Podcast. And Michael Anderley happens to listen to the show, and he said, I heard that, and I think that would be some of that would be valuable to the folks attending 20Books. So I'm going to talk to Craig, and we're going to get you in. So I was already coming to the show. I was already coming here. As me. I wasn't even coming as Draft to Digital. And then D2D says, go ahead and we'll reimburse you. So that's great. So now I'm officially here for like 3 different things. It hasn't made my life hectic or busy at all. But this is something really special to me because I came up, not just in this industry, but practically everything I've ever done in my life, I came up as a bootstrapper. We're going to talk about what that means and what it can mean to you in your career, and hopefully you get something really useful out of this. I want to preface this by saying, some of this is going to be basic stuff you've heard a million times, because I can never quite gauge for audiences like this who's at what level, because there's usually a huge mix. So bear with me with the stuff that you've heard a million times, and maybe I'll give it a new spin or something inspirational you can take off with. But I promise there should be something in here that will help ignite your fires and get you writing more and more often and in more places. So, that said, one more deep breath there.
Not going to trick me this time.
And release. Okay. So, bootstrapping your author career, a no to low overhead approach to writing and publishing. I have to read the slides out loud because that's how lame I am. So what is bootstrapping? So the mistake I made is I didn't set up my little remote so I didn't have to stand next to the laptop. So bootstrapping, we'll just pull the dictionary definition first off because that's what you do in presentations and slideshows. You use the dictionary. So it's a verb, and it is to get oneself or something into or out of a situation using existing resources. That is actually how I plot all my books, by the way. You gotta get someone into and out of a situation. But in other words, and this is one of my favorite phrases, I use it all the time now, figure it out, or FIO. If you listen to the Wordslinger Podcast, you hear me say this all the time. And the idea is use what you have, learn what you need, and make it work. Pretty basic, but it's one of the first things we forget when we run into trouble. Am I doing something wrong?
She's gonna push your slides for you.
Oh, you're gonna do my slides. But then I don't get to cheat and look at the screen.
Turn around.
You're fine. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll do it. I'm fine. I really appreciate it. Only because then I'd have to constantly, okay, next slide. Nothing's more entertaining than a guy telling somebody, okay, next slide. Wait. Go back. Okay. So the first rule of Write Club is get the damn book written. I only used that headline so that I could say that phrase exactly that way. So, and I love the idea of Write Club, but don't talk about it, please. So this part. So there are a few components to the idea of bootstrapping. I'm going to start with just getting the book written. Okay. Now a lot of you are already doing this, but even if you're already doing this, maybe there's something in here that will help you get the book written faster, better, easier, and make your life a little better, maybe make you a little more money a little quicker. So bear with me. So first, you want to set some sort of daily target. It doesn't have to be anything specific. I talk to authors all the time. I do a lot of author coaching. I do a lot of conversations with authors at places like this. And the will-be authors, that's what I like to call the folks who are kind of coming into it. The will-be authors sometimes get hung up on like, how do I keep this flow going? How many words a day should I commit to? Maybe it's not words per day. I have a daily word target, and that's what helps me keep on track. But maybe for you, it's how many pages you do per day, or how many hours you spend per day. But I would experiment and figure out which of those works best for you and commit to that. But the key there is consistency. So progress is your metric. Whatever you use, whatever method you go for, whether you want to say 100 words a day, 5,000 words a day, 3 pages a day, the way you gauge your success is the progress you're making. Continual progress is our goal. Commit to a daily discipline /habit /routine, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And commitment is always a key to success. So here's my favorite phrase lately: write ugly, edit later. And now I'm going to confess I am a pantser, which means I'm a discovery writer, if I want to put it more politely. I think Stephen King uses that term, which means I'm not a plotter. I don't plot my books. There are some in the room, Mr. Jim Heskett back there, who think I'm insane because I don't plot my books. I think in a conversation we had, Jim and I and Nick, over an interview we did, we kind of came to the conclusion that I actually am plotting my books, I'm just doing it longhand. But the concept here is, if you focus on editing as you go, we're gonna break this out. If you edit while you write, you will exponentially increase the odds that you won't finish. Which means if you are so focused on making sure it's letter perfect as it goes on the page, there's a higher than average shot at never finishing that book. Now, I can't back that up with data like a lot of you would probably want, but I can back it up with personal testimony because I have about 1,000 books that I started and never finished before I finally got into this career. They're just sitting on a hard drive. Some of them were pretty good, some of them were pretty awful, but I tried to make them letter perfect as they came out of my fingertips, and I got so sick of the stories that I never completed them. You will get a lot further if you'll commit to, I'm writing ugly. It's okay, because I'm going to come back and fix it all later. So writing ugly means writing without editing. There's a process that I stole from Dean Wesley Smith. I don't know, was Dean actually here? I know.
Yes.
Okay. So I saw him here last year. I haven't been too preoccupied to see him this year, but I stole this from his book, Writing into the Dark. It's a process he calls cycling. If you saw him talk about it, he's probably talked about this, so I'll just brush past it. But his process is to write 500 words, then cycle back and edit that 500 words and keep going. Now, at first blush, that sounds a lot like editing as you write. But he's shifting gears to do that. He's not stressing over every word, making sure it's perfect before he moves on. He's going ahead and writing it, then going back and editing it. 2 different hats, 2 different modes. Now I stole this and I call it looping because that's a word so totally different than cycling. And the idea is to write your daily target, which we talked about earlier, right? It's the number of words you write or the number of pages or the amount of time. You want to hit your daily target. Then I put that away. So I've accomplished my task for the day. Right now, so at times, so my daily target shifts. I'm a daily word target guy. And that shifts from time to time depending on what season I'm in. Right now I'm in a conference going season, so I usually do like 5,000 words a day. Right now, if my goal is, my commitment is 2,500 words per day. Because I'm very busy. So doing like 5 things at one conference. But I write my 2,500 words, and then I save my work, and I move on. And then the next day, I read and edit that 500 words, and I do the rewrites and everything there, correct spellings, I fix typos, I add words that were dropped. Maybe I rewrite a little bit. I can usually do that very quickly. This phase goes very fast. So once I'm at the end of it, typically I've added a few hundred words, and then I just write the rest of my 2,500 words for the day. So all that counts as part of your daily target. The rewrites count toward your daily target, okay? So that process allows me to engage my editor brain, get it satisfied so it's no longer yelling and screaming at me the whole time I'm writing, and then I'm free to just write. That whole process of write ugly it takes a psychological weight off your shoulders.
Bless you.
Bless you. Everyone take a deep breath for a moment. I'm currently suffering from what we call affectionately Vegas head, because I went out last night in Vegas. So the other option you have here, one option that I recommend a lot, is to alternate, and that is you can just break these tasks down to specific days. So you write one day, you edit the next day. Okay? You don't have to continue the next 2,500 words or the next 100 words or whatever your target is. I like to do that because it makes forward progress every day, but as we said, just the editing will add to your word count most of the time. So if it helps you to feel less stressed about the whole thing and get the book done faster, just go ahead and spend one day writing and one day editing and alternate that way. And some folks, I've talked to a few folks that I write Monday through Wednesday and I edit on Thursday and I take the rest of the week off, or something along those lines. That's fine too. So you have to determine what's going to work for you and spend your time on that. So this is a phrase that'll get you beat up at a bar at a writer's conference. Minimal viable product, or MVP. Before I go on, I want to see how many of you, and be honest, how many of you have a negative reaction to this phrase? Okay, you guys can leave. Hold on. We're going to get into why you have that negative reaction, why it's justified. So, an MVP is not rush to publish. It is not about chunking out whatever garbage comes out of your head, spending no time editing it, and putting it up for sale. That's not what an MVP is. This term is borrowed from other industries, primarily the software industry. Ironically, I heard of it in the software industry and stole it, thinking this is a clever thing for me to steal and bring into writing, and then realized everyone was already using the phrase. That happens to me a lot. It's because I used to be a marketer in the software world. Sort of still am in a way. But the idea in the software world, at least, was to produce software that was up to a good enough standard to release to the public so that you could then use it to find any errors and problems in that software and fix them before doing a wider release. right? But then the MVP thing kind of took off, and now people sort of release the MVP as the product, and that's fine too. So what it is you want to create the best book, software, roadmap, whatever it is you're creating, the best possible, given the time and the resources that you have. That's what an MVP means. And the reason this is important in this context as a bootstrapper is time is kind of our friend and our enemy, right? In this world, when we're trying to build a platform, you've heard that term thrown around a lot, when we want to build an audience of readers, time is crucial. Readers do funny things. They'll read a book and then they immediately want to read another book. If you have another book, they'll probably read that one. If you don't have another book, they'll go read someone else. So the idea here is to speed up our production a little. By no means am I saying that you must furiously lay tracks in front of the train all the time, but if you can get books produced a little quicker, it'll benefit you. That's the idea here. There's this concept you may have heard, iterate and optimize, and again, I completely stole this from someone else. I'd say 99% of this presentation is actually stolen from other people. So this is, as your resources improve and grow, you make the book better. That's a key component to the minimal viable product idea. You're not just chunking out garbage and leaving it there to rot in the sun, stinking up the place forever. One of the greatest benefits of being and advantages of being an indie publisher is that we can do something the traditional published authors really just cannot do, and that is we can pivot. We can change things as we go, we can improve as we go, without having to wait months and years for those changes to be made. Like we can, over the weekend, decide I want an all new cover, I want better layout, I want to fix these typos. I'm basically refreshing the entire book. We can do that, and by Monday it's done and distributed. I have had conversations with a lot of traditionally published authors who very much envy that concept. In fact, I talked to Patricia Cromwell, who said that some of the typos that are in some of her books have nagged her for decades. Decades! That's ridiculous. How many of those books have been printed? It's not like I'm going to get off on a really angry tangent. So this next section is more, this is my favorite part. And there's a couple of folks like Dan in the room that I've talked to about. This bootstrapping thing is part of my DNA, and I love gadgets and I love tinkering with stuff. But this is where to me the fun part comes in. You need, as a minimum requirement, some device, something to actually write upon. Now, if you're old school, this could be a notepad and a pencil or a pen. Okay, fair. All right, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, in terms of equipment, what's the minimum equipment you actually need for this career? And this is important, and it's going to play into something else I'm going to talk about a little later, which is the concept of writing anywhere. You need some device, a laptop, a tablet, a smartphone, or there are those specialized writing devices, I forget what it's called, it's like a little keyboard. Alpha Smart. You guys are amazing, because I'm like, that scares the crap out of me. Like, I'm just going to type up my entire book in this keyboard and plug it in and let it type itself overnight? No, that's some Harry Potter shit right there. So I talk to people all the time about this. Now, it's a ridiculous thing, but sometimes when I travel, I like to push myself. You're going to really get into this idea in a minute, but I like to push myself a little. I like to see how extreme can I get with this. One thing that I'll do sometimes is I'll say, I'm going to travel to this conference and I'm not taking anything but my phone. And this keyboard, I love that keyboard. You can buy it at Target, it's like around $40. I've seen it on the shelf at Target, but you can buy it on Amazon for around $30. That is a 3-way Bluetooth keyboard, which means that you can program that to allow you to type on your phone, your tablet, and your laptop if you want. from one keyboard. That thing weighs nothing, it's practically indestructible, it costs $30, so if you lose it or it's destroyed, you can easily replace it, right? So this is my phone here actually, I have this little kickstand on my phone, you might be able to see it, and I will set that up when I go to some conferences, when I've got some writing time. Sometimes I'll run my presentations off the phone. That's how dedicated I am to testing this stuff for you guys. Okay. But I'll have my little keyboard here, and I'll sit and I'll write. And if you ever want to have a conversation with 150 plus authors within the space of an hour, sit down at a cafe table and put that phone in front of you with a keyboard and just start typing. Because everyone who's attending that conference is going to stop by to ask you, first, what the hell you're doing, and second, where you got that keyboard. So that by itself is to me, $1 million prize. A $30 investment with $1 million return. Because I've probably written 10 books using that keyboard and that phone over the years.
Are you typing it into Word?
So I use Scrivener, the Scrivener mobile app.
Okay.
But I'm glad you said that. There's a couple of other things, I'm going to just go ahead and get through these, but there's a couple of other things that are part of the minimum requirements. I consider internet access a minimum requirement. Luckily, you can get it anywhere. Sometimes it's not very fast, such as in this casino. But Starbucks, McDonald's, gas stations, everybody's got free Wi-Fi now. I recommend that if you are going to use free Wi-Fi, use what we call a VPN. Which is, you can get an app. I found one, I paid $125 for 3 years of service, and what it does is protect it makes, the long and short of it is, keeps people from being able to look at my files or something when I'm logged into an unsecured Wi-Fi. You definitely want that, especially if you're going to do banking or something similar on your device. To me, internet access is another minimum requirement, and some software. So I use Scrivener, which is about a $20 app on the iPhone, and a $40 app on your Mac or PC, and they will sync together if you use something like Dropbox. So I can go from writing on my phone or iPad to picking up and writing on my desktop or laptop, same document, and it'll all sync, and I love that. But you can do that even easier and spend no money at all with software like Google Docs, which is a amazingly powerful word processor, honestly, with some pretty advanced, you can share your content with someone else and co-author things together and see how you can actually watch as people type things. It is very impressive, and it costs you nothing. There's OpenOffice is another one. Apple Pages comes right on your iPhone and your iPad. IA Writer is a pretty popular cheap app on the App Store. The guys like Stephen Gould, the guy that wrote Jumper. You want to see the horrible film based on the amazing book? Hated the film. I know some people love it. Before I move on from this, I do want to point out something, because I get asked about this and I have a story related to it. But take a look down here and notice somebody typing with just their thumbs. And the answer to your inevitable question is, yes, I do occasionally write using just my iPhone and my thumbs. And I usually do this while standing in line. And the story is, a couple of years ago, I was in Orlando for back-to-back conferences. I was at Indie Book Fest and NINC, and there was like a 4-day window between those two conferences. So I did what everyone does when you're in Orlando and you have time to kill, went to Disney World. At Animal Kingdom, I wanted to ride the Avatar Flight of Passage ride. It was like a 3 to 3.5 hour wait. So I'm standing in line between, I think it was a Korean family and a German family, none of whom seemed to speak any English and had no interest in talking to me. And my wife was busy, she couldn't text. So I decided, I'm going to use this time productively. I opened up Scrivener and I started typing a short story. I finished the short story while I was in line, and then I used the Canva app to build a free, easy cover. Right? Not something I would normally do, but now I'm in experimental mode again, okay? And then I took that manuscript and the cover and I went to draft to digital and I used the free conversion tool and I got it into layout and I got it all the way to the point where I could just hit publish and it would go live. So for the kids at home, I wrote a quote book, short as it might be. I built a cover, I converted it to an ebook, and I could have hit publish had I wanted to. I decided I needed to probably edit that book. And all that while standing in line at Disney World. You can write from anywhere. And that is a key component to bootstrapping an author career. Okay? Now that book, by the way, is now my top of funnel freebie on my website. If you go to kevintumlinson.com, it's called The Janai Sigil. It's a lot longer than it was when I was at Disney World, but the core of that book was written while standing in line at Disney World. So there. The publishing portal is the last minimum requirement. I recommend draft to digital.
I wonder why.
I'm just going to put it out there, okay? I'm a little biased, but I hear there are some others, and they may still be around later. I can't promise it. But KDP is also an option if you're into that sort of thing, exclusivity, etc. So write and edit anywhere. I already told you the main story here. So I write while traveling. I write in the bathroom. Come on. Your phone's right there, right? In line at Disney World and in line at the grocery stores. Basically, because of all those minimum requirements there, I have the ability, even without the internet access, I can write from anywhere. That's a key component to the bootstrapping idea, is people are always saying, I just don't have time to write. I don't know how I'm going to do this with, I got to get my kids up and get them to school. I got to get to my job. I only have 30 minutes for lunch. I got to take kids to soccer practice. I get it. Then this is your opportunity to experiment yourself. This is one of the reasons why I love smartphones. Smartphones, to me, have opened the door. There are developing nations in this world that skipped the PC era and went right to mobile technology. And they are doing crazy stuff with it that had that happened here, I'm like, what would the world be like, right? A kid, and I hate picking on Africa, everyone always says Africa. Not all of Africa is like deserts and starvation, okay? But in certain regions of Africa, they don't have anything else. But a kid can have a smartphone that he charges off a community windmill, and he can start a business and get paid entirely digitally, create his products entirely digitally. I mean, that, and read books and experience YouTube and learn all he needs to learn. I mean, the biggest takeaway from that is look at that, watch them, and take all that and use it yourself, because that's bootstrapping. Like, that idea is you can do this, there's no barrier. That's the idea. Sorry, I went all stupid passionate about that for a second there. Let me rein it back in a little. Any downtime can be writing time, and every word counts. Every single word you put on the page counts. The idea, we talked about it earlier, is continual, constant progress. Progress is the metric. All right. So, marketing without a budget. Oh man, all of a sudden the notebooks got picked up. All right, first, yes, it is possible. Thank you for coming out. So yes, it is possible. So the key here first is to gather all your assets. Who do you know? What do you have? What software do you have already? You don't have to go purchase things. What equipment do you have? The smartphone is the best example, right? The who do you know question really is the best question to ask, because a lot of you have more resources than you think, especially since you're here. Like this building right now contains like some of the most concentrated wealth of knowledge in the indie publishing industry on the planet at this moment. Think about that for a second. So make sure you're taking some email addresses and social media contacts with you when you leave this thing. Define and build your platform. So is your platform an email list? Is it social media? Do you have a podcast or a blog? I would say, by the way, email list is always a yes. You should always have an email list. You've heard this. This is not new information, but that's a must. But focus on growing your platform. But Kevin, how? And I'm going to answer that right now. How to grow your platform. All right, first, ask for what you want. It's so ridiculously simple, and it's the one thing nobody ever does. But ask for what you want. There's usually one of two answers you're going to get. Yes, or maybe I'll get back to you. Which is really just no, right? But the yes, those come more often when you actually ask for things. You just like you'll exponentially increase your odds of not finishing a book if you try to edit while you write, you'll exponentially increase the odds of getting what you want if you'll ask for it. So here's the formula. This is my ask formula. Ask for help. So people want to help you. It's a shocking revelation, and sometimes people just doubt this furiously. But at our hearts, I believe this. People are genuinely kind. They genuinely love other people, even if they're really terrible at showing it sometimes. But they, in general, people actually do want to help you out. And that's always a good thing. But give them a why. So the word because is powerful motivation. I read a book, and you should read it too, called Influence, and the author's name has popped right out of my head. But look up Influence on Amazon. He gives an example of an experiment that they did with people standing in line at like a FedEx or Kinko's or something, FedEx office or something. And a person walks in with a big stack of papers and goes to the head of the line waiting at the copier and says, "Can I cut in front of you because I want to make copies?" That was it. And what they found was about 80 to 85% of the time, they let them cut in. They tried it without the because, and 80 to 85% of the time, they did not allow them. So just giving them a reason why, even if it was a ridiculous reason, increased the odds that they were actually going to get what they wanted. So give them a why. And have fun with it. I do this all the time. Hey, do you mind if I cut in because I have a rash on my heel? Or, whatever body part's appropriate for you. I decided to clean it up at the last second. All right, so be specific, be honest, be vulnerable. We have a real problem with vulnerability. I don't know why. We're really afraid to open ourselves up and be genuine with people, right? But the truth is, there's a sort of visceral reaction that human beings have to other human beings when we sense that vulnerability. We're afraid that if I expose my jugular, you're going to go right for it and rip my throat out. But the other side of that is, when you see a puppy roll over its back and expose its belly, what's the first thing you want to do? Give it some loving, right? If you don't love a dog, I really want you to leave this room. That's what we are. We're making ourselves vulnerable. We're rolling over and showing our belly. I'm going to have to speed this up because I've only got about 6 minutes left. Maybe it's a little longer because you guys cheated the time, right? So once you have your platform, you want to give something to get something. I told you that I have a free short story ebook on my site. It can be practically anything, a video, an infographic. You just want to create something. Creating something is powerful. You want to create something that's targeted for your specific reader. You want to make sure that this ties in with the product you're trying to sell. You write romance, make sure this ties in with romance. It doesn't have to be a short story, but it might be, a special cover or a special video message from you. These things are, people do all kinds of, when I used to teach high school, and I found that I could get a kid to chew off his own arm if I offered him a sticker for it. They will do anything for a sticker. So you want to offer that metaphorical sticker. Engage regularly. If you're just hitting your list like once every 6 months, they're not going to know who you are. I try to, my goal is to try to touch base with my readers once a week. Some people find that too frequent. But aim for once or twice a month at a minimum, because you want to make sure that you are actually engaging, not just trying to sell your book. You want to ask open-ended questions. You want to make the whole thing a conversation. I will do things. The story I usually tell is my best performing email of all time was I had something going on with my elbow, like a tennis elbow thing or something, and I just like, well, I'm not going to try to sell anything. I'm not going to try to push anything. I'm just going to touch base with my readers and let them know what's going on in my life. And I told them about how I had a TINS unit. You know what a TINS unit is? It's basically a taser you use on yourself. Okay? So I attached the leads to around the area on my elbow, and then I turned it on and waited for the sweet, sweet relief. And what I neglected to do was check to see how high the thing was turned up before I turned it on. So your natural instinct is to reach over with your free hand and pull the offensive thing off your body, right? Except that now both hands are tied up in this, right? So I got this whole palsied thing going, and I can't let go of the leads. And so I ultimately have to I kick the thing off of the table and on the floor and step on and pull it off, and I'm free. And I shared that story with my reading list, and the subject line was, I probably need adult supervision. I did not mention my books at all, except I had a footer in the email that said, to learn more about me, go here on social media and find my books at kevintumlinson.com/books. That was the only mention of books in that entire email. For the next 2 weeks, I watched as my sales quadrupled based off of that email, and I could track it. Like I could see, I knew people were getting there. I could see how many people were clicking on that link, and I could work it backwards. Quadrupled my sales for 2 solid weeks just because I showed a little vulnerability and how much of a moron I am. This part to me is something you should keep in mind always, but every single reader is important. So treat them as important as they are. They are important. They're human beings, so that makes them important by default. They're your reader, so that's like bonus importance, right? I got a lady who sends me the update on her daughter's courses every month. And I respond to that email every month with, that's amazing, your daughter is incredible, I love horses, thank you so much for sharing this with me. And that is a lifelong reader, and she shares my emails with everyone she knows every time something comes out. She's one of my best promoters. Marketing with empty pockets, and we're going to rush through this. I tell too many stories, that's the problem. No budget. If you have no budget, you want to aim for creating as much shareable content as possible. So social media, blog posts, videos. We are by nature creators. I mean, we are just content creators. That's what we do. So funnel that in. Marketing can be that easy. People freak out about marketing, but that's what marketing is reaching an audience with something that hits the right notes and makes it possible for them to discover your work when they're ready to buy. If you have a limited budget, only spend on high yield opportunities. This is my approach. There's people in the room who might disagree with this, and that's fine. So do your research. But if I had when I had a limited budget, I skipped Facebook ads and things like that. I skipped all that stuff, and I only focused on trying to get maybe a book club promotion or anything that would get as many eyes as possible on my offer and my book. Partner up. Newsletter swaps, social media swaps, that sort of thing are incredible tools for accelerating the growth of your platform and making more sales. And then, of course, share content and make yourself valuable. Give more than you get. Give more than you ask for. And there's a Zig Ziglar quote that goes, I can have everything in life that I want if I'm willing to help enough other people get what they want. I live by that quote. I wish I could dwell on it. 29 seconds. Content marketing for authors, we kind of hit this. This aim to repurpose to me is the big takeaway here. I do this thing where I write an email that's like a long essay about my research, something I found in research. I send it to my list because they're on that list because they like those kind of stories. I take that email and I read it out loud and I record it as a podcast. And then I can repurpose it as a podcast and a blog post. And then throughout the year, I do a bunch of those, and at the end of the year, I can bundle those as both an audio book and an ebook. So that one email can produce 4 or 5 different products, which can help increase your discoverability. Always keep your ideal reader in mind, always. Figure out who your ideal reader is, and everything you do and build is aimed at that reader. And then, just the start. Remember that bootstrapping is a starting point and a fallback. So even if you're a seasoned veteran in this, the concepts here can be a sort of go-to when you're just having trouble figuring out what to do next. All these things are transferable skills. They're core principles that you can build on. So as you grow, you can take this bootstrapping idea and turn it into something bigger. It's that MVP approach. You're improving as you go. And always learn, always continuously learn. YouTube is my favorite tool. You can find anything you want on YouTube. Try me. Go try anything. I want to learn how to weave baskets while underwater. I bet there's a video. Okay? So, I'm going to just wrap it up here. You're welcome to come up and talk to we'll migrate out in the hall, but I hope, regardless of what level you're at in this, I hope there was something useful in it. And I hope you kind of go forward with this concept. It's all about using what you got, figuring it out, making things happen for yourself, and you can do it. I believe in you, so I hope that you believe in you. So thank you so much for taking the time to let that run off. I held it this whole time. Thank you so much.